was in one before I ever saw one.
I saw my first opera, I was 22 years old, and I saw Fidelio in Columbus, Ohio. So I went expecting to be sleeping halfway through it, and I had the exact opposite experience. I loved it, absolutely loved it.
I went and I saw a performance of Pagliacci with Domingo, and all of a sudden I just started weeping. And it's the energy in his voice and the vibrations just got in my body, and even though I wasn't watching the stage action and I wasn't reading the super titles, it's just the physical emotion that he had got inside me, and I said, I have to do that. That's amazing.
Hold for just a moment and see her.
I can tell you the exact seat I sat in. I remember every moment, and when it was done, I pointed at the stage and I said, I want to do that.
My first experience with opera, which I would probably say is like many people, is from Bugs Bunny cartoons. So that was my first exposure to opera, and I really had no idea what it was until I went to college. And it absolutely swept me away. I'd never experienced a human voice being able to soar over a full orchestra. And so just purely from a visceral standpoint, it's something that just can absolutely overwhelm you, and it's unlike any experience that you will ever have.
Opera was really invented to combine all the arts: painting, sculpture, singing, dance, orchestral music. They were trying to create a culmination of all the arts to maybe create the best art form, I think.
I think opera I've always viewed as being the quintessential art, because you have to focus on music and dance and acting and languages and vocal technique. I mean, it's all thrown together to create this monster artistic piece, and there's nothing that's equal to opera in the performing arts. It incorporates everything.
The opera in Winston-Salem is such a gift to this community. It really is. Jamie Albritton, who is the artistic director, has very high standards and is very talented, and he brings a quality to Winston-Salem that you would not normally get in a small town.
As artistic director for this opera company, my job is to present this art form, this combination of all art forms, opera, to this community in a balanced diet. 66. What I need is the dotted quarters from each of you respectively, so we get D. So I got to make sure they eat their Wheaties, their Verdi, but they get enough sugar with their Puccini, but we take our vitamins with our Mozart, and then all of a sudden we're always exposed to new flavors and new tastes like Light in the Piazza, so that as the opera parent of Winston-Salem, I'm always feeding my child a balanced diet.
Times are changing. Opera used to be a very musically oriented. It wasn't as focused on the drama. And you know, I love the music, but these days they're so focused on the acting. You have to be just as good an actor as a musician if you're going to make it in the opera world. So pieces are becoming much more entertaining to watch. There's a lot more action happening on the stage. You have to be in a lot better shape to be an opera singer these days. You know, you've got to be running around doing knife fights and sword fights and love scenes, so it takes a little bit more stamina than I think it used to.
Grazie very much. Here we go. You make these?
Okay, so opera. Figaro is like a soap opera. It takes place in a castle rather than a hospital. But you have intrigue, you have marriage, you have a man cheating on his wife, a wife jilted, another woman having claim to the girlfriend's marriage, and then find out that he's the mother, and the lawyer that was prosecuting the case turns out to be the father. I mean, that's just like watching General Hospital or One Life to Live. It's the same story, it's the same intrigue. Just happens to take place in a castle in Spain rather than a hospital somewhere near New York.
And you don't have to know what it's about, you don't have to know anything. I tell people all the time that if you think it's about love, then it's about love. If you think it's about hate, it's about hate. And most generally, you're right.
I have to say, you guys are amazingly lucky. Amazingly lucky. Because every single person that is involved with this company is not only a very highly skilled professional, but also a teacher. So they're thinking about these things as a way of how do I communicate the art of this to students, which makes it wonderful for an audience because they're also taking that, how do I communicate this to students, to the audience? How do I communicate this to people who don't necessarily understand it? And then they bring it to us too. So I've learned more doing this Figaro, and I've worked with Zubin. I did Zubin Mehta was my first Figaro, and you know, I've had some great conductors along the way. But Jamie has taught me more about this opera than anyone else. They're some of the best professionals I've ever worked with. I'm kind of blown away by this company.
Why should you go see an opera? Why should you go to a museum? Why should you read a book? Why should you do anything that enriches your life? I realize that it is difficult to imagine coming to an opera as an opportunity to expand your horizons. It can seem kind of scary because, you know, they sing in this foreign language and I don't understand the language, and they're all standing up there in clothes that are 200 years old. I've never seen anybody like that. And all of those reasons are exactly why I find opera to be so compelling.
Anytime you open a door in your life, I think you're really lucky. Always before the show opens, the day before, when I can't quite get it all together, something I go to that's larger than me and my little problems. Open a world to me, make my life make more sense, put me in perspective of the life around me. That's what I love, and I think that's what theater does.
And to me, that's the greatness of opera. You can go to the theater, you can be thinking about the challenges you have in your day, in your life, what you're facing, and suddenly you have to watch with 1,000 people in your community, you have to watch the struggles that this person goes through. You have to feel deeply his or her inner feelings because the music tells you that, it compels you to do that, and come to some kind of conclusion over it, whether it is the character's conclusion, whether it's your conclusion. And then you have to walk out of that theater and hopefully you're changed. Hopefully it has compelled you in some manner to rethink some aspect of your life. That's what art does.